Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Rich Dotson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
He's Garrett Price.
How's it going?
And behind the screens is Jared Wackerly.
Wow. Was that the geckos that did it that way? I can't remember. Or was that?
Sorry, it's too much.
He's like, I'm
lizard.
gonna go
Longer than Rich's aunt.
Rich did not. He's like blushing for me. He's not
That's
like that.
always my, your intros are always.
Yeah, yours was very energized. I can tell you're refreshed from
Thank
vacation.
you so much. Yes, I'm tan. I'm refreshed.
You do.
The
See
laziest.
them toes.
Yeah, let's see. This
Oh, my
stuff.
toes are very tan.
I bet they are.
Oh, I was. It was the most relaxing vacation, like, because my kids are older now, and like my 15-year-old son, who's like a big dude, you know he's 15. Like, raise your kids how you do, but we let him like drink some there because whatever, it's all inclusive and they have bars. And
Jesus, he's 15.
okay, well, you raise your kids how you want to, and I raised my kids how I want to. When I was a freshman in high school, I was partying. So was Matt. So like I'm not like a naive parent. Like and we try to we explain them in the right structure, and he got drunk for the first time, and
I respect that.
They had a club there, so like at nighttime, not like a real club, but like a place where the kids were dancing. Like
We were so relaxed. My kid was wasted.
he was partying.
that's-
My youngest son was just as soon as we get there, he's like, I'm going to play basketball. Met friends immediately and hung out with them all day, every day. Barely saw the kid.
Yeah,
That's so
fun.
we just hung by the pool, and I drank a lot of mojitos, a lot of
I saw
Miami
a picture
Vices.
of a mojito and made me very jealous.
Those are good.
I drank a lot of mojitos, and I just laid by the pool, like something I don't normally do, and I tanned my toes off. Let me say the least.
Glad
so
you
it
had a good
It was
time.
relaxing. Yeah, it was. We like normally we go out and do like excursions there, but my one son had shoulder surgery, so like we didn't want to exclude him. Like he couldn't go paddleboarding, he couldn't go sailing. Like there's certain things he couldn't do, so we're like, we don't want to exclude him at the same time. So here's mojito, son. Instead. It was just funny because he had 2 drinks and the kid just like, whoa, he's like, I've never been drunk before, and we're like, oh, it's not something you really want to do like often, but here he was, and he met some ladies and he met some kids and he had a good time.
I mean, it sounds like he had a great time.
Yeah. So
Sure does.
I don't encourage that. We had a long talk to him about alcohol and stuff, and he knows how we live like our lives, and responsible is the key word. Like if you could be responsible, then we can trust you. Then there's certain privileges we will allow in certain situations, and the moment you lose that trust, and the moment you're not responsible, the moment those privileges go out the door. So again, I mean, Matt and I went to high school together, and growing up, let's say we like to have a good time for all our entire high school time.
We
You
liked,
guys have some good stories.
we
let's
liked
just-
our privileges.
Yeah. And let's just say when we went to college, people were like seeing these big parties with kegs and stuff, and they're like really blown away. And we're like, oh, this is okay.
It's just a Saturday. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just a
Been there,
normal
done-
Saturday.
been
You
there,
guys
done
had me
that.
crying last year in New York with some of your stories at the bonfire. I was
Yeah.
laughing
Oh,
so hard.
we've got some stories. So, it was a good trip. Good to be back. We are going to finish off our rookie running backs this episode. This is episode 5 of the rookie running backs. We've already covered the quarterbacks. Tomorrow we're going to start the wide receivers. We have 5 episodes of that, 2 episodes of tight end, and then the NFL draft will be here. So if you've enjoyed all the rookie breakdowns, if you had a good time, if you feel like your overall knowledge is better so far in these rookies, we still have a long way to go, but if you do appreciate it, we would appreciate a rating and review on the podcast.
Absolutely.
It really helps us this time of year, get the show out there in front of more people. The show is pretty popular, but we always could be more popular.
We are good with that.
We could be.
Yeah, I need
Yes.
the people in the Dominican to
To know my
You
name.
didn't see any Dynasty
Senior
Nerd
Dynasty
shirts?
Rich. No Dynasty Nerd shirt.
Oh,
so
man.
I wore mine one day. A couple people asked me, like, oh, what's that? And I'm like, oh, it's a Dynasty fans football website. One guy was like, oh, you like Dynasty? I'm like, yeah.
A little bit.
He's like, I play a little,
Yeah.
But it turned out he
dabble.
doesn't. It was just a keeper.
A keeper league.
Yeah.
You're like, dude.
That's not a
It's not Dynasty.
league.
I explained it to him over a
Yeah.
couple of mojitos, and he was pretty like, oh, that sounds way better. It's like,
You guys
yeah,
did a
but
startup
good
and you
taste.
like fleeced them on some trades already.
So yeah, if you leave a rating review, we really
First
help
aren't
it.
worth anything. Don't worry about those.
It helps the show. We appreciate the support. Just like this film we watch, it's in the Nerd Herd. It's in the film room, all 22. We're still adding film. It's unbelievable how much film we have in that film room to get your eyes on these rookies. Yep. And, honestly, we have a Dynasty Nerds app coming to a rookie app coming really soon. So by April 10th, a lot of people sell rookie guides. A lot of people have those. Those are nice. Shout out to all those people that put the time in that. We're going to have a rookie app. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be like a rookie guide, just way more digital because it's an app. And
user-friendly.
Yeah, it's going to have all our rookie breakdowns, the videos on there as well. Very in-depth analysis, nerd scores from Garrett and Jared as well. And if you join the Nerd Herd for the price of a cup of coffee, it will be absolutely free for you this year. So it's going to be another tool for you. We keep developing. We keep building. It's going to be a really sweet rookie app. I've seen the designs for it. It's awesome. It really is. Yep. It's going to be. It's going to have upgraded like mock draft abilities as well. So just join the Nerd Herd. You get the Dynasty GM, the best Dynasty app out there. You get access to the film room. You get access to the Nerd Score. You get access to the Nerd Score Plus, and then you get the Dynasty Rookie app, all for the price of a cup of coffee. Like, join this month for a price of a cup of coffee. Get all that, and you'll get the app for free. So check that out. Leave a rating review. And with that being said, we have 6 running backs to talk about, the last 6. And, of course, any running backs that we do miss that end up getting drafted, we will have a show after the NFL draft to break those guys down as well. We always do a show that guys that we missed or guys that are worth noting from all positions. We'll do that show as well. So as we get into this running back, these next 6, I will say 5 out of 6, this class stays true to its name. It's a very strong running back class because I liked 5 out of 6 of these guys. Like, I'm like,
pretty
I like
darn
these
good.
guys. Like, these are
For a 5th show. I mean, for
the extra show,
right.
yeah.
which we've never done a 5th show for running backs. And it just
Normally
tells
it's like, I liked 2.
Yeah.
like, that's a pretty normal year, like
Per
2
show. Per show
Yeah.
every for the 4 shows.
like we got to the end of the show and like we're covering Montrell Johnson out of Florida, and you're just like, man, like he's a really solid running
There's a
back. Like, if this was a different class, he could be like a running back 6. He's like my running back like 14, 15, right around there. So some good names here. Might be some games. There'll definitely be some names you know. Might be a couple names you don't know. Some that me and Garrett like a lot. And Matt, for some reason, he's a hater to hate on Hayden. But that being said, let's dive in.
Yep.
Let's talk about our first running back here, and it's a running back that we know close to home.
We do. I was actually in Columbus this weekend. Went to COSI.
Nice.
And then caught a crew game.
Nice.
So, but anyway, back to this breakdown.
Assuming he's there right now in Columbus.
I think he's working out somewhere, probably warm. Right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
But Quinshon Judkins is the running back we're talking about. Ohio State running back, 5'11" and 5/8", 221 pounds. Excuse me, 9 1/4 inch hands. 30 and a quarter inch arms. I mean, whatever. He's 21 years old. He'll be 22 in October. He ran a 4.48 in the 40. He had a 1.51 10-yard split. So very good 10-yard split. 132 inch broad jump, 38.5 inch vertical.
Gross. Gross numbers at his size.
Totally disgusting. Did you see some of the workouts? This guy's got some balance. He's got some power. He's got some strength. Crazy. He was running last year behind the 40th best run blocking unit there at Ohio State. Yards after contact, 587 out of his 1,060. He had 194 attempts for 1,060 yards, 14 touchdowns, 22 receptions, 161 yards, and 2 additional touchdowns.
Yeah, so Judkins for me ended up being my running back 4 overall of this rookie class. And it's weird. I was talking to you guys before the show. I'll be tweeting this out very soon. I do this every year where I tweet out my running back rankings overall. And this year is weird because, like Matt said, like so many of these guys are so close, right? So I'll have them ranked, but also be very tier based. But my top 4 is like I have 4 separate tiers. I have almost 5 tiers right now for 6 guys, which is nuts. Like Genty's in tier 1 all by himself. For me personally, Trevian Henderson's in tier 2 all by himself. And then I have Amarion Hampton in tier 3 all by himself. And then I have Judkins in tier 4 pretty much by himself. And then I have Cam Scadaboo and Dylan Sampson for me in that next tier, because right now, outside of draft capital, like that's how I would draft those guys 10 out of 10 times. And that's how I kind of do my tiers. Like if I would take you 1 out of 10 times, then you're still in that tier because I would still consider you there. Right now, I see those guys very defined off the tape.
Do you think draft capital could merge those tiers potentially?
It could, but again, Trevian, just because Hampton goes higher than Trevian Henderson wouldn't really move it to me because I expect Henderson, if he doesn't go in the first, very high second, right?
Right.
Everything I'm hearing, it looks like Hampton's probably going to go in the first round, which would then probably solidify him over Judkins for me right where I have it. Unless Judkins ended somewhere great. You know what I mean? But at the same time, a first round pedigree.
What if he was a second round pick to the Browns?
For Judkins?
Yeah.
Love it.
It depends. It would depend where Hampton went.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to let. Again, people be on Twitter and be like, "Oh, he's Ohio State guy." That's like because he didn't go to Ohio State, which is the stupidest thing. Because I've never ever rated anybody on Ohio State higher than anybody because it is whatever. Like the tape's the tape. Now the Browns, that does get edged to me, but at
least you're honest.
No doubt.
Well, I've said this 100 times on the podcast, right? Like, we play a game that's supposed to be fun. Like if you're on the Browns, it's my favorite team. I'm watching every second of you. Like it's gonna be a little bit more fun for me. But I'm not gonna go like a huge tier over somebody. Like if Henderson, if Judkins goes to the Browns and Henderson goes somewhere sweet, like he's still nowhere close for me.
Winning is more fun than anything else.
100%. So. Watching Judkins film, I mean, this kid is a human batter ram with like a little bit of nitro boost factor as well. Watch him against Michigan. He's attacking those inside gaps. He has that very sudden burst, which is really nice. So he explodes through those creases. Like he has some TNT in those cleats, right? Preston runs deep in the line with patience before slashing with controlled chaos. He's a very physical runner. Penn State, we watch that tape. Bulldozing arm tackles. You're not taking them down. It's like middle schoolers trying to grab them and wrap them up. It's just not happening. So these pads are low, square, legs drive through contact like he's punishing sins, finishing with a forward lean that racks up always like an extra 2 to 3 yards every damn time. Outside runs for him, very nice. Like he has that burst and explosive to get to the outside, kind of like a Kenneth Walker esque out there for him. So
with more finish.
It reminds me of Joe Mixon a little bit.
Joe Mixon's a little bit more savvy in the passing game, but I'll take that. I like him on the outside. Watch him in the Maryland tape, him gliding outside, reading his blocks, very calm, like he's a Buddhist monk out there as well, so he doesn't get overly excited. For me, his short yardage, that's his bread and butter. 45 career touchdowns, one every 16.4 carries. He's the goal line Jalen Hurts, right, on the tush push. Iowa shows him on it in that tape there, 3rd and 1, shrugging off linebackers. Pass protection's really good. Viable in the passing game, not his strong suit.
Right.
But again, they had Trevion Henderson there, so they didn't really need him to do there. So a lot of his stuff was just check downs and things like that. But like Garrett says, cans and cannots, right?
Yep,
like,
he's a can.
Where do you look at him? So for me, he's a 3-down running back that could be a running back 1. I mean, kind of like a Derrick Henry, a little less burst. But more viable in the passing game. His size, his touchdown, that nose there, his monster for him there is where he really likes to live. It is a little odd when you see somebody like Trevion Henderson, in the same exact scheme, average 7.1 yards per carry, and him to average 4 point. What was it like?
He had 5.5.
Is it 5.5? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
In the same scheme, same system for a big, powerful running back with quick feet. But overall, I mean, he's a high floor running back. Like this is a 3-down guy you could put in there, a perfect fit for like the Steelers would be really nice out there. The Titans would be a really good for him. Cleveland would be any of those AFC North run defenses would be really good. He'd be a really good fit in Chicago, outside of DeAndre Swift as well, kind of paired up there.
Absolutely.
He's somebody that can win and be a running back 1. He's young. He's a bruiser. He gets it done. He's so explosive. It said his combine numbers that Matt read off kind of show that as well. For being 220 pounds and to have the feet that he has and explosiveness that he has is very impressive.
A 1.5, 110-yard split at
that's fantastic
weight and size is ridiculous. I mean, that's really, really good.
And like you talked about before, like, is that his true acceleration, or did he work really hard at the combine? I think it's both. I think it's both. I think he does have good bursts when you watch his tape, like that does jump out. But I also love seeing that, like, obviously this guy worked his tail off for the combine. You can tell he put in that work, put in that time. That should translate to the next level.
I was just saying, and there's things, there's guys that do that and work out and do really well and still don't have those kind of numbers.
No.
So, you have to have like a baseline athleticism and explosiveness in you to get that. And he for sure does. And you're getting like you mentioned him as a battering ram, and this guy loves contact. When he gets especially you get him on a DB anywhere, he's going to lower his entire shoulder, his head, everything's coming down, and those guys, and he gets low, and it's pretty amazing for a guy, I think, that size, for him to be able to kind of generate that kind of pad level and just strength behind it. I mean, it's very rare that I get excited like watching guys, but I love watching Quinshon Judkins run because he isn't afraid of anything. He wants the contact. He is going to bring an attitude to whatever team he has, whatever team he lands on. He's going to have a tougher attitude. It's going to have a tougher attitude because of him running the ball, basically.
The one thing that I'll add to all of this is he started off his career in the SEC at Ole Miss. And as a true freshman, he was already putting up 1,500 yards. Yeah. Like, that's nuts. That
18 years old.
That is really difficult to do in a major conference like the SEC or the Big Ten, to put up those kind of numbers as a true freshman when you're like the focal point of the offense.
He was smaller too then.
Yes. And so to see him, he was definitely there were some people that I listened to that said that they thought he lost a little bit at Ohio State. I didn't see that. I watched both tape.
Okay.
He looks like the same player to me. But if you're telling me that this Ohio State version guy could potentially be better, then I'm definitely not upset. Like, that's great because what I saw at Ohio State was a legitimate, yes, he should be drafted in the second round. He has the skill set to be a featured back at the NFL level.
What was the size difference? When he would,
that's a good question. I'd have to go look, but I would have to guess he gained at least 10 to 15 pounds from his freshman year to now. Most of those guys do coming out of high school and then getting those college programs.
From his freshman pitcher coming in, I was like, look how much smaller. Like, he looked about 15 pounds.
Did you see the recent video of him working out?
Yeah.
He ain't small.
No,
he ain't small at all. Honestly, I thought he was going to weigh more than he did at the combine. I wonder if he's slimmed down a little bit to run that better 40, because it wouldn't surprise me if he's like really 225, 228 where he's really playing at, which I would have no problem with at all. But
his 40 was nice because speed, he's not that home run threat runner. He's like, go give me 4 or 5 yards.
But he can
he can rip off runs.
I mean, let's remember the national championship game, and everybody points to that as a negative, and it like dropped his stock for a little bit, which I thought was silly because like, DB that runs a 4.3 caught him after 70 yards. Yeah. But like, he ripped off against one of the best defenses in college football, like big long runs. So he can do it, but you're right. Like, his bread and butter is like, I'm going to rip off 6 yards here, 8 yards there, 5 yards here. Like, that's his game. Like, I'm going to chunk you to death.
And he's scheme proof. Like, you want to run some zone, he'll
got to know speed.
Good luck trying to stop him.
He's got a bag too. Like, he can make you miss and stiff arm.
Yeah,
like,
he's got some moves.
Yeah, he's got the full package.
I like,
big fan.
Which
is nuts. He's my running back 4.
That's what I was just about to say. Like, most years other than the Bijan year, I could have seen him being the RB1 in almost any of those classes. It would have been close with Brees, but yeah.
When Rich was breaking down his top 4 tiers, that's exactly all I could think of. Like, any one of these top 4 guys that Rich was talking about could be the number 1 guy in any given draft. Like, that's how good all of them are. So Quinshon Judkins, I'm teetering back and forth. I see the upside of Marion Hampton just catching the ball more. So I think
I have him a skosh higher.
That's the differentiation between these two guys, because Quinshon Judkins can do it, but I just don't know how much an offense is going to want to get him involved in that way. Like, if they have another guy that does that, he might just be the guy that runs the ball and occasionally gets a
like Nick Chubb.
Up.
Like, here's 2 passes.
Just targets. Like Nick Chubb. Like, dude, you're so good at running the ball. We're gonna run everything through you and occasionally toss to this other guy over here.
And those guys, I mean, a guy like him, sometimes those guys, they could throw me off a little bit. But I said, I mean, the fact that he can do it, like when we see guys like him, like the Adrian Petersons, the Derrick Henrys, the Nick Chubbs, they do win in that category. Definitely like Derrick Henry, the back half of his career when he actually got more involved in the passing game, shows the upside of a guy like Quinshon Judkins. Very good running back. Like, it's like you said, this class is special, and he's one of the crown peaks of the mountain that make it so special.
The one thing I will say, some of his pass pro, I think, was a little bit it was hit or miss for me. There were times when everything looked good, like especially when he's able to go forward and like chip a guy and come after a guy. I think he does well. there were times in pass pro when he was asked to kind of absorb a hit and he wasn't as effective there. So I think he just needs to work on that stuff a little bit as far as anchoring and being able to kind of hold up in those situations. But other than that, I think he was fine in the pass pro stuff. I did want to mention that as like, because we're talking about the passing game stuff, that another thing that he might need to kind of work on a little bit. Yeah.
There were a couple times too where he had a very solid score on vision for me, but there were a couple times where I was like, you might have rushed that one a little bit, or you could have maybe widened that a little bit. So there were like little nitpicky things here and there, but sometimes, with some of these running backs, I just know I'm better than you.
That's right.
And so like, I'm just gonna do it. Like, yes, maybe I could have had a better run if I would have blah, 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 blah. But like at the end of the day, I just think I'm better than you, and I'm gonna see if I'm
And I think he's the type of guy that is sizing up DBs to go, I could try to run around, but I'd rather just hit you. Yeah. And like, cause that's
his attitude.
He likes contact.
Oh, you see him after a big pop. He's like, he gets hyped. Yeah. Like the Michigan game, the Penn State, like he gets jacked.
It makes you question. Like, oh, dude, it's like, okay, is his vision awareness like slightly like not there? Or is it like he doesn't just give a shit?
No,
you know what I mean? Like
it's probably the latter.
Yeah. There's a few times like awareness type stuff that popped up to me where like it was 3rd and 1. Could have easily hit it up in there because he's Quinshon Judkins for the first down. And he would like bounce it, and they didn't get it. Just little things like that. I did notice like game IQ.
Yeah, I had a couple little dings on him for that. Not a lot, but enough.
And then enough to put him at running back 4. Yeah, like against guys that are like, again, when you have Hampton, Henderson, and Genty, we're like, dude, almost flawless. Like It's just enough, and you have to.
That's all it takes at times.
You have, and then NFL drafts can be a big help for these running backs.
Dude, I cannot wait to see where all these guys go.
He's my RB3 right now.
Judkins is?
Yeah.
So you take him ahead of Hampton?
I have him, Trey, and Hampton all in the same tier.
Okay.
So. And it's fine. Like the same thing. Like nobody's even like, oh, Rich, you have him his own tier as running back 4. Like I'm not going to argue. Like we're like the tiers here aren't like big tiers.
Right.
It's they're crocodile.
That's basically
tiers.
us saying like where they go in the NFL
crocodile
draft.
Tiers are big tiers.
Crocodile tiers I thought were fake tiers.
Landing spot.
Lots of different. I thought look at those big old crocodile tiers. I thought those were big tiers, but I could be wrong now.
Anything you want to add on Judkins?
Nope.
There, Jared?
Nope.
So Bucks. Overall, he's in our top 4. He's running back 3 for Jared, running back 4 for me, running back 4 for Garrett, and running back.
I think he's going to be 4 by the time I'm done.
Who's your top 4, Rich?
I have Genty, Henderson, Hampton, Judkins.
Okay, so you guys all have the same 4.
Which is crazy. That's not normally how it plays
I had
out.
Hampton at 4. So
and it's close. Yeah. Even like as special as Genty is, like in the right. I've said this before. Like with if Trevor and Henderson went the first to the Chiefs, like it's not like, oh, that's pretty sexy. You know what I mean, it's pretty good for where he can win. Sure. So very happy to the point where like I'll say this in a super flex league, it's pretty much Genty. Probably like I'll throw Cam Ward into that mix right there because like. Cam Ward looks really good. He's going to go number 1 overall. So, like, it's still super flex regardless.
Yeah, it's just so hard to pass up on first-round running backs, though.
But then, like, that's the thing. I'd be okay with taking all 3 of those running backs ahead of Cam Ward, which is crazy to say. Probably not. That's the thing. Maybe see. Not Judkins. I'll see where he ends up. Sure. But, like, at the same time, I'm taking all 4 of those running backs before I take my first receiver.
Yes.
I might be 2. It's close. We'll talk about the receiving class.
I still watch a lot more receivers, but our first receiver covered is the first number 1 guy and some guys, and I have some things to say. So I would definitely take all 4 of those guys out of him, most likely.
All right.
I agree.
I'm pretty close on that as well. I think yes.
We haven't even covered tight ends yet. I'm a tight end slut, so I can't wait to get into like Tyler Warren. Like I might have those guys out of all the receivers.
Rich, 1 overall. But I also play in a 3-point per tight end.
Rich's first
league,
wide receivers coming off the board at 14.
And I don't even know where Cam Scadaboo and Dylan Sampson are going. And those guys I love too. Like I love those guys. Like I
have them at 5 and 7. So
yeah, 5 and 6 for me. So all right, let's keep this party going.
Let's keep it going.
Got some more love and dove to give out. Who's next?
Love and Dove.
Love and Dove. Love and Dove.
I mean, I know what Dove is. It's a nice soft soap.
It is.
Yeah.
You know what? I never said this. Like probably like a year ago, we were talking about like what we like shower and stuff, and I was like, oh, the loofah, and you're like, I just use bar soap, and I was like, am I a bitch for just like not like for using this loofah? And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try bar soap, and I got I think it might be Dove for men, it might be whatever all-purpose one. And I was like, what was it? What have I been doing for the last 20 years? I just
you don't need a loofah.
I don't have anything. Just bar soap.
Yeah.
Dude,
it's everything.
I got this thing. It's not a loofah, but it's like an African loofah. I don't know what they call them, but it's like kind of rough.
Yeah.
And it like
pumice stone.
No, it's like a loofah, but it's I don't know.
A bitch wrap?
Like you just wrap it around your hand and you put the soap on it. It's supposed to like clean you more.
Okay.
Bad
So you
it's like exfoliate.
Yeah.
Oh, exfoliate.
But I
skin
forget
looks good.
what they're called.
Anyways, bar soap. Matt changed my life.
Bar soap, man. Yeah.
Anyways, next.
Who's next?
Damien Martinez, running back, Miami. 5'11" and 5'8", 217 pounds, 9.5-inch hands. I don't even want to know. 21 years old. He just turned 21, so he's young.
We're talking about Damien Martinez, right?
Yes.
I'm so distracted by his fingers. Damien
Martinez, yes.
Okay.
Ooh.
He had a 40 of 4.51, a 10-yard split of 1.56. He had 124-inch broad jump, 35-inch vertical. Last year at Miami, he had 1,002 yards on 159 attempts, 10 touchdowns, 17 receptions, 204 yards receiving. And he ran behind the 72nd worst offensive line as far as run blocking.
So Damien Martinez, another one of these guys that transferred to a new school this year, ended up at Miami with Cam Ward. And we saw at the beginning of the year, a couple of these bigger names tumble a little bit. And Damien Martinez was one of those guys. He was one of the bigger names in the class. Saw Ollie Gordon kind of take a little bit of a dip. Donovan Edwards took a huge drop overall. And Damien Martinez looked like he was kind of going to be doing the same thing. His first 4 or 5 games of the season, first half really of the season, was pretty underwhelming. Yeah. But then you could tell something clicked for him. And when you watch the games from the second half of his season versus the games from the first half, you could tell he got more comfortable. The line got a little bit better too, it seemed like, over the course of the season. And he really started doing some good things, specifically in the bowl games and things like that. He really started stepping it up. I think Damien Martinez is one of these players. He's a bigger, very physically imposing back. But I was surprised at how agile his feet were for being such a big back. So overall, I was impressed with his game. He had one of the higher vision scores for me, one of the higher patience scores for me. So he did really well at kind of waiting for things to develop, finding the right hole, but then having the good feet to be able to make a play. He's not somebody that is overly fast, overly bursty. He's not going to be outrunning defenders. He's not somebody that is somebody I'm excited to have in the receiving game. I don't think that's going to be part of his game.
I'm pretty sure you're like reading my notes. I'm very much seeing this the same way as you.
So he does what he does really well.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at a Damien Martinez, you look at an Ollie Gordon, I think they're going to be in a similar profile for teams of guys that, hey, these are trustworthy players that we know can get us a few yards despite what's going on with the offensive line. Like, they have the physicality, the enough burst to be able to break through the line, get us a few yards, do a lot of the short yardage, between the tackle type grinding. But I don't know that for fantasy football that he's going to have the same type of upside that maybe some other players would. And so while I think he could end up having decent draft capital, I could see him being an end of round 3, beginning of round 4 type of running back, NFL draft wise. Mm-hmm. I do worry a little bit on if his game translates as well to fantasy as I want it to.
Yep. I like I mentioned, I literally have all the exact same notes as far as vision, lateral agility. He does bring, I think, maybe some second level power. I don't know that he can really barrel through defensive linemen at his size, but he can move a pile if he gets past the initial, level there into the second level. The pass catching is what's going to limit him. He's very inconsistent there, and I feel like with that and combined with a lack of maybe burst and elite speed, I do struggle to figure out how he's going to win a job and then become fantasy relevant. I think he's a nice back to have for an NFL team, and he's going to have maybe a time when he's fantasy relevant, but I don't know when that's going to happen. Like a Zach Moss type of guy, you know what I mean? Like, he finally fell into the right situation in Cincinnati where he was relevant for like a very short period of time. But then they found somebody that was explosive in Chase Brown, and he kind of lost his job to him.
He kind of reminded me of Ramondre Stevenson without the pass catching.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of who he reminded me of.
Right, which is like
that's what made Ramondre Stevenson good. For
right, exactly. So it's hard to rely on a guy like that for fantasy. I think he's going to be around and be a name for a while. And in his relevance fantasy wise will kind of ebb and flow with when he gets a ton of, if he ever gets a ton of touches.
So this is, I think you guys summed it up, and I'm gonna kind of cover it from a standpoint of you guys said it all perfectly, and from the game we play, Dynasty fantasy football, and the first word's Dynasty, second word's fantasy football. Then the third word's football, but
don't worry about that third one.
The fourth word,
when you hear about this class and you hear, the Dane Bruglers and the Matt Millers, and they're out there talking about like how this is one of the strongest running back classes they've ever seen, right? And how many gradable running backs are out there. I think, Damien Martinez is kind of the epitome of that, right? Like he is a really good running back. And he's going to be on an NFL roster, and he's going to help an NFL roster for sure. But we play Dynasty fantasy football, and we are looking for players that are going to offer the most fantasy upside. Again, why kind of like I like Jordan James so much, and like I like the upside of a Trevor Etienne, right? Their pass catching ability. And there's another running back we're going to talk about here in a little bit that I love a lot because of that as well.
Absolutely.
So like you guys said, Damien Martinez is a very good running back. There's the next running back we're going to talk about, Monangai. A really good running back.
Or
you mentioned Ali Gordon really falls, like he's probably the pinnacle of what we're talking about here. A lot of those guys have a really hard time winning at a fantasy level at the next level. A lot of those guys are few and far between. Adrian Peterson's and Derrick Henry's that we mentioned, like they can win without catching passes. Yep. It's really hard to do from a fantasy output, because a lot of times you just pick up the third down running back and they're going to outproduce that guy, right? Because if they don't score touchdowns, you're in a big world of hurt. The guy come out there and be the first, second down running back, get 15 carries, have 98 yards, but if he doesn't have a single catch and a touchdown, it's 9.8 yards.
And Martinez has, there were questionable drops that I saw. And I was just like, dude, you can't drop that one.
He's closer to a can't, honestly, for me, when we're looking at the cans and can'ts. I forgot to mention my score for him. Still had a solid score, 71.73, but that's 15th in the class.
71.63.
Oh, so we were pretty much in lockstep there.
Yeah, for my pass catching grade, I don't know. I
his 32 catches in 3 years.
Yeah,
it's not his bag. Things that you mentioned, like I was really surprised by his agility, like how nimble he was for his size.
He's got really good feet.
He's got a bag.
Yeah,
he's good.
He's a good running back.
Yeah.
He's
a good NFL running back.
He's on my board.
For sure.
So what I want to say is, like, when you hear people talk about this class, it's a little bit more diluted for what we're going for here, right? Because we're chasing points. And if you're in a standard league, Martinez is right up your alley, right?
Yep,
These are guys.
Absolutely.
This class is unbelievably deep for you. And I think there's guys in this class, like Martinez, like Monangai, that when the guy ahead of them gets hurt, like these are going to be guys like you want to draft them, you want them to back up because like they're going to be just fine, kind of like the Mike Davises, when it gets out there.
Totally.
Tyler Algier, what he's done.
Tyler Algier, they're going to produce for you. They're going to give you fantasy points, but they're going to need all the carries to do so, right? When they get into their role, when they're going to be a timeshare running back, they're not going to be as valuable. So these guys are going to be on my roster, and I'm going to draft a lot of them, right? Like if they're there in the fourth round.
Third and fourth round picks.
Like third, fourth round. Well, except with the tight ends, because there's going to be a lot of guys there as well.
Especially if he lands on a team that you already have the starting running back. That's fantastic. Thank you. I'll take you, yes.
Plus he's taxi eligible.
David Martinez is a very nice running back.
Absolutely.
From a tier, he's probably going to drop down to that. Like right after I mentioned that Dylan Sampson tier, like I have Ali Gordon at the pinnacle of these kind of guys, but then the Jordan James, the LeQuint for you. So like that tier, like he's gonna fall in the tier after.
And that is something that's gonna happen for me because Jared and I talk about this all the time when we talk about our nerd score. This is simply just their total skill set on tape. That's what we're watching for. When we go to rank these guys, sometimes even pre-draft, same guys, all the same information. we're going to raise or lower guys slightly because of things like this. So while Damien Martinez is 15 for me in my nerd score, he might be more like 18 for me in my actual ranking. Monangai, we'll talk about him in a second. He's going to drop a little bit. I love his tape. I have a really good score for him, but he's going to drop a little bit because of some of these things. So, and then you have other guys that will rise up a little bit because of things that they can do. You know, RJ Harvey might bump up a spot or two because of some of the things he can do. So, you know, we're definitely going to talk about my boy LeQuint.
You want Damien Martinez to land in a spot and have the opportunity and turn into like the dream scenario would be like a James Conner. Right, that's what you're really hoping for.
It's a good comp.
You know, when James Conner when James Conner went to Pittsburgh,
Same
you're like,
number.
You know, and I remember saying like when I watched his tape, and obviously he did way better than I ever thought he could do.
Sure.
James Conner to me, I was like, this is like the perfect guy when he gets the opportunity. Be like that. Be on a fantasy radar for like 2 years, like worthwhile. And here he is at almost 30, still putting out running back one numbers. Took him leaving Pittsburgh to be a real solid guy, but like that's what you're shooting for. But again, those are outliers and. I don't love to chase those outliers, but I love to stash them. Right. You know what I mean? And like
you still got to be aware of them.
You need to be very aware of them.
You know what I mean? Like
and I think this draft class is littered with them. Yeah. So, when we're breaking these guys down, when you hear these guys, draft capital will be one thing, but dynasty relevance will be another thing.
And he is a guy that is a little bit on the younger side too. And when you see what he can do with his feet, that tells you, okay, naturally bigger guys, their feet aren't this agile. Mm-hmm. So maybe he is a player that has enough finesse in his game that he can develop into a better pass catcher. Or maybe he can develop into something a little more.
Or another running back who had really good feet that was really big. It could be an A.J. Dillon.
It's true. He could fall into the same category.
Thing. Good draft capital, good spot for the most part where a lot of people loved him. And like, it's kind of hard to see the relevance there. And that's the one that went the other way, the opposite, where it didn't turn into anything.
Nerd score.
You know, and then same thing. You see a couple games out of a guy like Braylon Allen, who's a young kid. You're like, ooh, there's potential there. Yep. So, like the running back, I think Damien Martinez is a very nice NFL running back. Mm-hmm. He is on my board, but he might end up being in that. Again, the first, let's call those, even though there are 4 different tiers. Tier 1 guys, Tier 2, like just Dylan Sampson's and Cam Scatterboot because it's small. That big Tier 3, he's probably in that top of Tier 4 for me.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Again, it does show the depth of this class, but I need those fantasy.
And that's exactly where he's at for me, even just nerd score wise. So yeah, I'm with you.
Jared, you got anything you want to skittle daddle on top of that?
Nope. You
skittle daddled
the whole thing. It was good. It was good. Nothing bad.
I like it.
So next up, man, I don't even know how to transition from some of these skittle daddles. Kyle Monangai, Rutgers running back, 5'8", 211 pounds, 9-inch hands. He's 23 years old. He just turned 23, like this month. So a little on the older side.
A little bit
on the older side. In the 40, he ran 4.6 flat. He had a 1.54 10-yard split and a 117-inch broad jump, 34.5-inch vertical. Last year at Rutgers, he had 256 carries, 1,279 yards, 13 touchdowns, 14 receptions, 75 yards, and an additional touchdown. And he was running behind the 9th best run blocking offensive line at Rutgers. So very talented guys there.
Yeah, but that guy was some nice tape, kind of like right behind Damien Martinez. You know what I mean? Like I like Martinez's tape better, okay. but Monangai fits right into that bill, right? Like. They're there in that same tier. I mean, he's a compact dynamo.
Yeah,
like a nice little running back.
5'8", 211,
bowling ball.
Dude. That is
bowling ball.
That's rocked up, man.
I love it.
And he goes from slow to sudden, like quickly. And in open field, he's nice. Like he's a nice running back. Like he has some acceleration there. Shows a little bit of open field elusiveness out there. Mm-hmm. Like you watch him. Like I watched him against Michigan State this year. Like he was stacking lateral jukes. Like he was out there.
He's
putting
really
it there.
Impressive laterally. I like this guy.
His hips, like. For a guy of his size, like he has really nice hips. Outside of like Quinshon Judkins has tight hips. If Quinshon Judkins had Monangai's hips, like he might be running back 2 overall.
He'd be the Monangai.
He'd be the Monangai. So, he's kind of like that early down, first, second down running back. Ball security. I don't think he even fumbled.
He did not have a single
fumble. Yeah. Like
not one.
Not one single fumble his entire career.
Over 650 rushing attempts.
Really no injuries either.
No.
But again, 5 years, he caught 38 balls in 5 years. So he's a 23-year-old running back
that fantasy
that doesn't catch footballs. But again, he's an NFL back. Like, he's a solid running back, but he really falls like everything I just said. And I leaned up on Damien Martinez. Like, I'm real worried about his fantasy relevance. Like, he needs an injury ahead of him, and for him to get 20, 25 carries a game to be the guy, like, to be relevant. But like, he's capable though. Like,
it's a good score.
He's capable of doing it. I mean,
both of us.
He got good scores from us. Yeah.
The way at his size, the way he's able to make cuts and juice and slash and move in the open field is really impressive.
He is. I mean, he is really impressive laterally. I think that's kind of that, and his quickness are his things. I don't think he has enough speed, right? But I think he is still quicker.
He's definitely limited.
He's a quicker than fast guy.
Yeah,
you know
he's
what I
not
mean?
stretching the field. That's a perfect way of saying quick, not fast.
Yeah. So I think he's going to be limited to, like you mentioned, Rich,
speed brick,
a grinder and a bowling ball type of guy. But there's a place for that on certain teams. I don't know what that equates to from fantasy purpose. Like you mentioned, Rich, I think he's got to be a high volume type of guy, and it's not like he's out there scoring 15, 20 touchdowns a year, even in college. This past year was 13, which is great. But I think he's going to be a guy that relies on lots of volume, and it's going to have to be like a crazy touchdown season for him to be like a running back one. So I think he's going to live mostly in RB2 type of territory if he gets a job and is like able to hold on to it.
So Monangai I have a type. I have a type.
Dang it. I bought the shirt too early.
Monangai fits that type. Like, and I think
Ali.
Well, more the Javante,
okay,
type. That type.
Did I get you a Rasheen Ali shirt?
No, it was you got me a Trey Benson card.
Oh yeah,
that's what it was. But with Kyle Monangai, I fully admit that I think he's a day 3 guy.
Yeah.
I know that he has limited athleticism, and there's still quite a bit to be desired in the receiving game.
Quite a bit.
That being said,
let's touch on the receiving, because he was only basically used on checkdowns, right?
Right.
And that was it.
That was it.
Not utilized whatsoever.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen guys before that are not used at all in that capacity, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, maybe they can.
And to be fair on that too, because of that, like, there's no pass protection to even really watch on film.
They have no quarterback, dude.
No.
Their quarterback was so bad.
It was pretty bad. All of that being said, I love this guy's tape.
Me too.
I loved this guy's tape. So he is one of those players that he fights and claws and kicks and punches and bites and whatever he has to do to gain an extra 3 inches. Like, he will do whatever he has to do to gain extra yards. And there were times I swear he would take on 5 defenders and he still would refuse to go out of bounds, would still refuse to go down. And those little things, even though those don't necessarily equate to fantasy success, I love watching guys like that. I remember just when I was watching him play, I was reminded of guys like Kyron Williams and guys like Bucky Irving. Now they're pass catching, so that's a little bit different, but they were in a similar mold where they're not these 6 foot tall, 225. They were underwhelming at the combine. Both guys didn't perform super well there. They weren't super explosive, super bursty, but they were both football players that had really good vision and just did everything right. He's, from all accounts, he was a coach's dream. He was the guy that was in there all the time, pushing his teammates to do more, working harder than everybody else. He was a coach's dream. And so for me, when I look at other players that are kind of the outlier types, if there was one guy that was an outlier type that I would be willing to bet on in this class, it would be Monangai. Still knowing that 9 times out of 10 is a losing bet. But if I had to pick one, it would probably be Monangai. So nerd score wise, he got a really good score for me. He got a 73.23.
Oh, wow.
But like I said, I would move him down a good 4 or 5 spots if I had to rank them. So that's where it came down to for me. I forgot to mention his vision. I was in love with his vision, tied for one of the highest scores in the class. So loved his vision, thought he was a very patient runner. And then we talked about that quickness as well. Jared, I know you had
73.28.
Okay, so yeah, we were like almost identical.
Yeah, and just the guys that he's around all time, nerd score wise, there's some good names. Kenneth Walker, Kendre Miller, which whatever. Travis Etienne, Cam Akers, a couple other guys from this class, Bigsby. So I mean,
see, and this is where like, again, this what I would say like, and I'm excited about the nerd score plus.
Because he'll move a lot in the nerd score plus.
Yeah, because again, I could see him grain out well on the nerd score. It kind of falls out the same thing. If you're going to draft him, he grades out well. Like if I had to put it like something on a T-shirt for him, it'd say grinder, not playmaker.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fair. And it's funny because the next guy we're going to talk about is like almost the opposite, where like this guy, I love his floor. I love everything that he does right. The next guy, I'm more infatuated with his ceiling. And so that's the hard part in all of these. You throw all this into a stew and you got to come out with a number and you got to come out with an evaluation. And sometimes it truly is like, how much do you value their ceiling? How much do you equate for potentially getting better? Like all of those kinds of things.
I did see him make a really nice catch, like outside his body against Illinois.
I think,
and then he
could.
He juked.
I gave him a 7 for
he juked the player and got 8 yards afterwards. Like,
I mean, when I was watching their tape, the defenses just knew he was getting the ball. Like there was no threat of running, like of passing. So they were just stacking the box, and he was making plays like this. I loved watching this tape.
And they ran a ton of inside zone. He had 203 zone runs against only 52 gap runs. So to be able to get, I think, almost 1,300 yards and you're grinding in the inside and you're having to find creases in this line that's kind of moving, like that does speak to vision. That does speak to kind of want to and stuff like that. So I think, there is a lot there to like about Monangai.
I gave him an 8.5 for contact balance. His contact balance was so good, and then he was hyper explosive, even though his top end speed isn't great, but he's just like pop. Like he's
very sudden.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good word for that. Yep.
All right. So Monangai, we all like him.
We're all a Monangai.
The question is, what is the real ceiling? That's the question.
Let's wait and see what his draft.
And for me, again, as much as you love him, I'm gonna pump the brakes on that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Got to.
And I can't blame anyone for that.
Yeah.
One bit.
But again, it goes back to, and that's why I had it when I know we were talking about Damien Martinez. I know Monangai was next, so I had to say, like, listen, guys,
all right,
people are going to talk about this class like it's amazing with these grades, and this is why, because the players like Monangai, but from a dynasty,
they don't typically translate.
It's diluted.
They can't always.
We're losing about 10 to 15 guys because of that.
They can't all hit.
No, they can't. For what it's worth, I like Monangai more than Martinez.
Yeah,
I did as well.
Yeah, I feel like you guys had that as well.
Okay, that's fair.
It's really going to be interesting to fall out.
They're very close to me. I might like Martinez just a hair more because of the upside.
He's a little bigger, a little more.
But yeah, I mean, those guys are literally. It's like what's the cereal where they're different colors but they all have the same taste?
Oh,
like Fruit Loops,
Tricks,
I think, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Like they're different colors, but they all have the same taste.
Yeah.
Like he's just
the red M&M versus the green one.
Yeah, it's just same thing.
Put Monangai in a Browns uniform, man. I would love to see.
I'd love to see.
Come on, I want guys I want to put on my fantasy roster.
All right, next up.
Whoa!
Come on.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah. Easy, Bobo.
I have a new friend I want to tell our audience about. That's right, Dynasty Nerds fan. We got new friends. And right now we're pumped to announce a brand new partnership with Fast Draft Fantasy. It's a lightning fast best ball platform where you can complete drafts in under 5 minutes. Right now, they're featuring rookie-only tournaments before the NFL draft even happens. Perfect timing to leverage all that room knowledge you've been getting from us, right? Put it all to use. Time. So, as always, our promo code is NERDS. So go out there, use the promo code NERDS. When you sign up at the Fast Draft, they'll match your first deposit 100% up to $25. Plus, non-members who deposit at least $10 and enter a contest will get a free year of our premium Nerd Herd and Dynasty GM bundle. Cow. That's right, guys. we're giving away a free year to the Nerd Herd. So all that stuff I mentioned earlier with the app, the film room, the rookie guide.
Why would you not
do the Nerd Score? All you have to do is go the Fast Draft, deposit $10, play in one contest, and we're going to give you a free year. That's like a $70 value.
And Garrett and I are running drafts and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll be throwing them up in Discord.
And it's
the
fun.
rookies only ones are fun because it's
Dude,
pre-draft and just seeing where some of these guys go. There's a ton of value to be had.
They only do them pre-draft. Like the contest closes at the draft. So if you have this kind of knowledge now,
it's fun because they're quick too. I'm just watching a show.
And listen, we're not gonna hold you out if you're already a Dynasty Nerds member. Okay, if you sign up and you do the $10 deposit, we're gonna hook you up with the most comfortable shirt in the entire world. Dynasty Nerds t-shirt. So all you gotta do right now, go download the Fast Draft app or go to draftfaster.com and draft faster. Win bigger with the code NERDS. You gotta use the promo code or you don't get the free year or you don't get the shirt. So use that, dominate your rookie drafts together. The promo code and the t-shirts will be sent on a week-to-week basis. Jared goes through those and sends them out. So
yeah, give me a week.
I mean, it's listen, you don't know what you don't know, right? So get out there, draft the app, download the app, put in $10. Worst case scenario, if you hate it, you still get a free year membership or a free shirt for $10. That's the best deal of
such
all
a good value.
Time.
Plus, you'll get that rookie draft app we're coming out with too. Once you remember.
Yeah. So it's like you're paying $10
and you might win money. It's like underdog. Like your lineup might even win money.
It's so much for $10.
So much for $10.
So much.
All right. Well,
I'm the accountant, and that's just too much.
He's like, there's too many lines there for.
That's too much. We're giving away too much.
All right. Well, it is orphan season over at FFPC, but of course, we are hanging out with them using promo code NERDS to get $25 off any single entry contest. FFPC, best place to go play Dynasty fantasy football at that high stakes level. You want to just do $35? That's all right. Just do $35. If you want to do a $2,500 league,
so what?
Look, you win that. That's some cash. That's some cash right there. Look, the best part about it though, honestly, leagues have never folded. They have never had a league fold. There's nothing worse than like working through a rebuild. You're finally ready to compete. And the guy's like, yeah, none of us don't really want to do this anymore. Yeah. We're going to shut it down.
Dude, what do you like?
It's the best way to like build up a portfolio of leagues. If like you don't have any more friends to play with,
yeah.
you know, like you can go join one of those leagues,
you need
buy
more
a
friends.
team, you know, like on eBay, like they got the orphans over there. So
what do you think the payout is on a $2,500? I mean, that's like go trip to Hawaii type of.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be making what, 20 grand?
FFPC has main events in Vegas and stuff. Like they do a whole thing. They've been around forever. So
yeah. You win a couple of those leagues, you just don't work anymore. It's just your job. It's just to do that.
I win Dynasty leagues.
That's right. So go to myffpc.com. That's myffpc.com. Use promo code NERDS and get that $25 off any league that you enter.
Babe, leave me alone. I'm working
right now.
That's how I am this time of year. I'm watching film. I'm working.
Working.
Watching football.
I'm always like, hey, you want to watch a movie? I'm like, I'm sorry, I still got like 2 more players I got to watch film on.
My kids are like, why are you always watching football? It's my job.
My wife, I miss you.
I know. That's that
This
time
is
of year.
my life.
Sorry.
We live together, babe. I'm right here.
I did have I had a good
miss
moment
you.
watching Tat McMillan and my son. It just so happened to come from home from school yesterday, and I was in some deep in Tat McMillan fan. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Watching Tat film." He's sitting there. He's like, "Oh, look at that's cover 1 defense," because he plays like a lot of Madden stuff. I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "What do you think of him?" He's like, "He's really ranked really high." I'm like, he's all right. Yeah. And we're watching him together. He's like, ooh, I liked how he did that and that. And I'm like, oh, I'm having a little Dynasty, little protege under here. And in my head, I'm going like, oh, can my son be an NFL scout? Like, I have access to this large film room. I'm going to hook him up here.
Hey.
Look, low-key, I've thought about that. That would have been like a dream job, but I feel like it'd be impossible to like have a family
That's
and
what
be a scout.
I wanted to do.
Impossible to be
Yep.
a scout and have a family.
Yep. So I was like,
Travel.
I mean, I'm sure they do, but like very hard.
to actually have a family and give them any time at all.
Right.
Yeah. No offense, guys.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys are great husbands and fathers.
That's a hard job.
Who we got next?
So next up, am I finally allowed to announce the next player?
Yes.
Maybe.
Hurry up, do it.
LeQuint Allen, Syracuse running back, 6 foot and 1/8 inches tall, 204 pounds, 10 1/8 inch hands. He's only 20 years old. He'll be 21 in August. He didn't run anything as far as the 40 or anything like that. No 3-cone. He had a 120-inch broad jump, 35-inch vertical. Last year at Syracuse, in 13 games, he had 228 yards or 228 rush attempts, 1,021 yards, 16 touchdowns, 64 receptions, 521 yards receiving, and an additional 4 touchdowns. And he was running behind the 55th ranked or best ranked offensive line as far as run blocking.
So LeQuint Allen, a player that I had heard a little bit about, and I had heard mixed reviews on him. There were some people that I really trust that had him pretty high, like even as high as their top 10. I heard some other people that had him real low. And so I was really not sure what to think going into watching his tape. Started watching it, and I was like, he's kind of tall. He's got like a borderline wide receiver build.
Agreed.
Like he's kind of like one of those tweeners. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. But as I watched, I was a little more enthused and saw him specifically in the passing game. I was like, man, this guy, especially when he gets an open field, like he catches the ball really naturally, can do a lot with it. And the thing that surprised me, because the passing game stuff, I think he could do that really, really well at the next level. The thing I was not expecting was the 20 touchdowns that he accrued over his time. And specifically the way he ended up with some of those touchdowns, because a guy that weighed into the combine at 204 pounds, he was listed at 201. I think his highest weight was at the Senior Bowl at 208. So like still not a very big guy, a guy that I think could use another 10 to 15 pounds at the next level. But the physicality that he showed specifically at the goal line, I didn't necessarily see it all over the field, but he had a knack and a nose for the end zone, which is something that you just can't teach. Some guys just have that extra want, that extra desire. And there's nothing worse than being watching your guy on red zone come up just a couple inches short. And LeQuint Allen, it seemed like he never came up short. He would run over guys, through guys, jump over guys, like whatever he had to do to get in the end zone. It was like he gained an extra 20 pounds when he got near the goal line, because just a different dog, a different animal came out of him. So I think he is very solid as far as vision and patience. I don't think it's anything exceptional. There were some little nitpicky things that I had, but I think he's very solid in that aspect. But if you tell me that this guy can gain some weight, I think we have a legitimate potential of a 3-down back at the next level. And that's the thing that's the most appealing to me. Yes, there's some little things he needs to clean up. I saw some really good pass pro reps, saw some really bad pass pro reps. So
same thing. I wrote he's a bit of a mixed bag there.
Yeah.
Hard to tell.
Yep.
I think the way you describe, I feel like his pass pro describes exactly how you described his physicality as well.
Yeah.
Like doesn't really show up his game, but the goal line showed up. Like there's times like in his pass protection, like he'd get after it.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
He runs really high.
He does run very upright.
And I think at the goal line, you as a runner, naturally where the contact is. It's at the goal line, and you're able to get your pads down. You're able to get behind him a little bit and generate some power. But when you run so high, and all of a sudden maybe you aren't expecting a hit, and it's there, you don't have any time to lower your pads because you're already up so high, and he's not that heavy. He's 204 pounds. It's really hard to generate any sort of power behind those kind of runs. So I think that's where I think mine and your eyes didn't see the same player, because I saw kind of a lack of power, and maybe I need to go rewatch specifically down by the goal line to see kind of some of his potential, because I saw him out in the open field and there was a lot of him getting knocked aside, knocked to the back, you know what I mean, and not much drive at the point of contact. So while I agree with a lot of the things you said, there are a lot of inconsistencies in his game. So I think him being 20, that's great, because I think he's got time to develop and hopefully add 10 pounds like you had mentioned, because I think that's what he needs. I think he needs a little bit more heft, and I think he needs to be able to get down a little bit lower and kind of just clean up some stuff as far as being more consistent. But I think all around exciting upside.
Very exciting for me. I had him as my 8th ranked prospect, just literally 0.02 points ahead of the last guy we talked about at a 73.25. So I have a massive tier, like you were talking about, Rich. I have a massive tier of guys that are all in a point and a half of each other for like 10 plus guys. So
where I struggle is if he doesn't, you know what I mean? Like if he doesn't realize that this guy could just like kind of fall off and be nothing. So I'm not going to go out and overdraft him, but if he's there late in drafts,
I will.
I know you guys both will. That's fine. I'm not going to. It'll be like the third round when I feel comfortable with this guy. And if I'm in drafts with you guys, you know what I mean? Like I probably won't be the one drafting him. You guys will probably be the one drafting him.
I'll be moving up to try to secure him.
Exactly.
Yeah, in the right spot. I mean, I'm really with Garrett here. I came away very pleasantly surprised. Like the only thing I knew about LeQuint Allen was when Garrett, like a month ago, said, "Hey man, like where do you see this guy? Like this draft class is really deep. Like there's this kid named LeQuint Allen out of like Syracuse.
I knew nothing about him.
And he's like, I just really like his tape. Like I'm excited for you to watch it. I'm like, so his name's been in the back of my head. And like, so when I finally got to his tape, I was like, oh, I know this name. Garrett said he liked, and like the funny part was like you mentioned like his passing game, right? Because like that's his bread and butter, right?
For sure.
His hands are stickier than Bonnie Blue sheets. Like they're unbelievable.
I saw a couple double clutches in there. Don't give me Bonnie Blue sheets.
Listen, if you watch the NC State game,
Bonnie
like
Blue.
the first like 10 snaps of the game, he doesn't even line up in the backfield. He's lined up out wide the first 10 snaps of the game.
Yep.
And he's a jack of all trades. And he really reminds me a lot of like a leaner, slightly more explosive Le'Veon Bell.
Slightly less or more explosive?
Less.
Okay.
Less explosive Le'Veon Bell. Like he does, even like his, remember Lev ran a little upright as well. Like his running style, everything about him, like just reminds me of him. I mean,
whereas Lev lost weight from college.
He needs to gain that weight.
And they're
give him that 15 pounds.
They're about 20 pounds off, like 18 pounds difference. And the fact that he is 20 years old, if he can grow into a little bit of that, I'm with like Matt said it too, like. I think if you take you and Matt and Besha together, like if he can put that weight on, I do think we have a third down running back here, a 3-down running back here that could be on the field and be a very nice fantasy football asset. Kind of how like I was excited about Tyrone Tracy last year, like the same excitement hits me with LeQuint Allen here. Like I think in a right situation, this guy has what it takes to be a very relevant fantasy football player.
64 catches, man. I mean, that's a lot.
It's a lot. And that's a school record.
And that's the thing. Anything after, I mean, you could argue the second round in general, but specifically after the halfway point of the second round of my rookie drafts, I don't care about floor at all anymore. I am solely looking for ceiling. And I think that's what makes him so appealing because he's not going to be going in the first 16 picks of your drafts or the first 18 picks.
Yep. And it's where I salivate for him because I see like, I kept watching his tape and it kept hitting me. I was like, dude, this could be Le'Veon Bell. Like this could be Le'Veon Bell. Like the potential is there. Like, so I'm with Matt. Like when Matt says third round, I'm like, no way. Like if I'm in the back end of the second round, like it's gonna be hard for me. Again, I want to see where he gets drafted and where he ends up. Like I need to have a lot of LeQuint Allen shares. Like I don't want to play the game of trying to wait on the Bucky Irvin and the Tyrone Tracy. Like I want to grab him the third, and they go high third or something. I don't want to miss out. There's so many times where I just missed out on those guys. A couple times where I got them, like I got the Bucky Irvins, I got the Tyrone Tracys. I feel really good about it, but like I don't want to miss out. And again, so when we talk about the guys like Damien Martinez and the Monangai, so I can get drafted ahead of him in NFL drafts. Go ahead, that's fine. I hope you draft off of that board. This is the kind of player that I am targeting. I'm with you. I'm chasing upside. And when it comes to upside, he might have some of the highest upside of all the running backs we're talking about. Like he's right up there with like, again, what I liked about Jordan James, like he's up there, but he's bigger. So even maybe a higher upside. Like if you wanted to, if we were ranking these guys on strictly upside,
he's probably faster. He's got like build up speed. I feel like.
Yeah.
So he's probably top end faster than a guy like Jordan.
I wish he would have
ran.
He refused to even run at his pro day because he said he wanted to show like a lot of scout. Listen, he's also really good on special teams, so he may actually get drafted a little bit higher than we think. A lot of teams showed up to Syracuse pro team. I think it was like 30 teams showed up to the pro day. He strictly worked out with the receivers.
You said he didn't. Did he run? He ran cone drills, right? Or was that somebody else? That
was 3 cone. Yeah, he ran it.
Yeah,
wasn't
ran the 3 cone.
It was elite.
Okay,
like 6'7"
Was that him or somebody else? We've been talking so many other guys that I couldn't remember.
Let me look.
I believe it was like, but so for LeQuint
he's got
Allen,
really good feet. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if he had a good 3 cone or good short shuttle. because I think he's that kind of athlete, but for whatever reason, in a straight line, I feel like it takes him a few steps to get up to his top gear. You know what I mean? Like he's not like bursty initially, but he has got speed. I think he's got long speed, which might be why he's not running.
I would agree with that.
He 40.
He doesn't have the juice. His burst isn't there.
Like watching him, I have written down unorthodox running style because he just.
It is a little bit of an odd gait.
Yeah, and it's like even making people miss. It's kind of just like.
But he does.
It's just different. He does, and he like. So I have him graded a 70.7. For it's kind of like the same thing we were talking about earlier, where the nerd score is not our final ranking because I do see the upside, especially with the pass catching. Because so they're talking Dynasty C2C league. I have him, and dude, he was putting up 42 points, 35 points, because he was catching 6 passes, 7 passes, 9 passes a game, scoring touchdowns, and it's just like those add up, and he was used in that way in college because he's a weapon there, and they're going to use him like that in the NFL too.
He's a kick returner as well. I mean, he averaged 24.5 yards.
And especially with the new kickoff rules and stuff like that, like people could be prioritizing that. And the thing that's nice about him is even if he started off his career as just a third down receiving back specialist, most of those guys are
RB2s,
5'9", 198
Scat
pounds.
backs. Yeah.
Like he actually has the frame to like, oh no, we could give it to him too. Like we could hand it off to him too. Like, so that's the nice part is like, even if it starts off as just a more of a niche role, if he does that well, it could easily develop.
Yeah. If we were ranking guys on upside, I think LeQuint Allen would probably come in right behind Dylan Sampson. Like him and
So you're talking about like 6th, 7th most potential in the class.
Like him and Caleb Johnson and like Teuton. Like right around like he's
the ceiling
in
guys.
He like that's
what's the dude from SMU?
Rashard Smith.
Rashard Smith might be up there too.
He's another one that he definitely has ceiling.
He's just got so much work to do.
That's the hard part.
Totally. I mean, but we're just talking solely ceiling.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. If we're just talking ceiling,
Giddens has ceiling. Bro, did you see that dude's combine?
No, he does.
Come on, he's got the size and the speed.
I like messing with you.
He would kill it in Denver with Sean Payton.
Yeah, so but I mean, he falls like the Caleb Johnson, Teuton.
I would love
Jordan James. Like
Denver.
Those are guys that like LeQuint Allen is in there. Like he's a top 10 fan.
Dude, I actually loved that. Jared just said, did you hear that? He said LeQuint Allen in Denver
would be sick. Yeah.
Yeah, put him in the Alvin Kamara role.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
He's got a similar like size.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I got me excited just now.
Easy.
Nah, I know, right?
Just
getting hot and bothered over here.
I just got a preview of the bedroom with with Garrett there.
You guys at the La Quinta?
I came away very impressed with LeQuint Allen, and I like him a lot. He's in my top 10, probably right around 10 rookie running backs.
I have him at 8.
But it's like, but he's in that tier where he could be as high as like 7. Like,
sure.
I mean, everybody who talks down to me or like who loves Caleb Johnson, like I love Allen just as much as like his upside. I love, and the thing, like I like Teuton's upside, but like LeQuint's way more dynamic than Teuton, right? Teuton's just a plant your foot and go kind of guy.
Sure.
Like in a PPR league, LeQuint is what you want. Like same thing, Caleb Johnson, his ceiling is just as high, like his pass ability. But like that's what I'm looking for. A guy who could be an in between the tackles runner, but also has that high PPR upside, right? Because that's where the juice is. Like if you want to enter that elite running back tier, unless you're an outlier like a Derrick Henry and an Adrian Peterson or a Nick Chubb, which again, we're going back to the last 20 years. We just mentioned 3 guys that fit that bill for 20 years. Right. You have to be a PPR pass catcher running back. And for Allen, he thrives there. Like that's the least worry. Like they have a back of his size. Obviously, he needs to put on some weight. So like, but to be 6'1", that thrives in a passing game. We're not like, oh, if you could just get a little bit more involved in the passing game. We just need to put on some weight. And the fact that he's only 20 years old.
I think that's important.
That is what really excites me about him. It's like you said, that upside is there. It's glimmering. And outside of Matt, like where most people probably be like, oh, if Allen's there in the 3rd, I'll take him. I'm not willing to risk it to miss out on the upside that he offers.
So Matt, you change your mind?
About what?
Do we talk you into him?
You like him more?
I like him more than I did when I sat down.
I mean, it happens to me. Like I'll see him
just
sometimes. I don't love a guy. And, like all 3 of you, all 3 of you guys like him. Like it turns my head. Like because I trust your guys' analysis. I'm like, oh, okay. Same. If you guys like, if all 3 of you guys like him that much, I obviously, I probably missed a little stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the episode when we were talking to Taj Brooks, all 3 of you guys were like, eh. I went back and watched a little more of him. His grade dropped a little bit for me, but just I respect you guys too.
See, all right,
I love you guys.
Love you too, Jared.
Let's take it down a notch.
Let's take it down a notch. Let's get less excited.
I got everybody all hot and bothered.
Marcus Yarns will do it for you. Hold on. Marcus Yarns, Delaware running back, 5'10" and 7/8, 193 pounds, 9 1/8 inch hands. He is 23. He'll be 24 in October. He ran a 4.45 in the 40. He had a 1.55 10-yard split, 122-inch broad jump, 37.5-inch vertical. In 9 games last year, he had 133 attempts, 844 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns, 17 receptions, 297 yards receiving, 5 additional touchdowns. I don't know what kind of offensive line he ran behind because
it's outside of the
it's D2 and it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. I mean, Yarns is just a wiry speed freak, right? Like,
yeah.
And you're going to see him succeed against teams like Towson, right? Like where he's going to bounce outside, show that burst, outflank something looks like a cheetah against Towson. You'll see him do the same thing where he's playing Stony Brook in 24, where he's like juking out safeties. But these are small time schools. I mean, he's really just like a change of pace back.
Stony Brook always feels like something that should have been on the Flintstones, like the university. To me, every time I hear it, I think of the Flintstones for some reason. Dude, but go ahead, sorry.
What? He's
a score is like neck and neck.
He's
been similar a lot.
Very frail frame, right? Yeah. He's 193 pounds. He's got nothing in the inside whatsoever.
He'll run in the inside. It's just not great.
And
There's just not a lot
an NFL
there.
defense would absolutely destroy him. Like that's it. I mean, he's gonna get he already missed time at D2 because of durability concerns. So like his ceiling, he'd hope to turn into is like a Tariq Cohen, right? Like that's what you'd hope he'd be.
I don't think he's nearly as quick as Tariq Cohen.
No,
that's
so
special.
I mean, unfortunately for me, he's somebody that I have zero interest in, like zero. He's almost pretty like when I do my rankings, like he's almost off my board.
When put in context with the rest of this draft. What's the point, dude? There's just a lot better options than a Marcus Yarns. Unfortunately, he has a lot to work on. Listen, he's not. He was operated like basically like a 3-down back at D2. He's never going to be used like that in the NFL. He doesn't have the size, the play strength, any sort of power to do any of those things. Yeah. He just is like a speed back, and honestly, he just doesn't.
Stiff.
He doesn't have like the initial burst to even be that in the NFL. I feel like he's a little slow in his first couple steps, and then he gets going.
It's a little deceiving because
just like where's the spot for a guy like this? So for me personally, there's gonna be a lot more guys that I'm a lot more interested in than him.
I understand that, and I'm pretty much in the same boat. The only glimmer of hope I'll give him was I did think like his vision was solid. Now, he wasn't able to do a lot with it in between the tackles as far as because there's no power element to his game whatsoever. There's very little contact balance, things like that, which do really concern me. The only thing is, like, I would probably take him ahead of the Phil Moffas and the Jaquindon Jacksons just because maybe he could catch it and you get a point for catching it.
Other guys don't care about it.
I'll put him ahead of the other guys that I really don't care about that have like zero path other than converted fullback, basically. Like,
so if you have too many 6th round picks, you might get Marcus Yarns on your team.
Maybe, but that's really like saying? He has a 68.23, which is not great.
Speed and patience. I don't even think his vision was. I thought he showed good patience, and that kind of like made it seem like he had good vision. Sometimes his vision was okay, but speed and patience were things I liked.
He didn't have elite vision or anything.
He reminded
like
me of Pierre Strong.
Who's that?
I could see that.
Yeah.
Oh, Peter Strong.
I was like, he was a Brown. You should know it.
I thought he said Peter Strong.
Oh.
No, he got overdrafted by the Patriots, and he stuck around a little bit.
I think Pierre Strong was faster than him or something.
Probably
bigger.
Yeah, he was like about 204 pounds instead of
Yarns didn't really get a terrible score. It was 68.2. I mean, that's not terrible.
It's not horrible, but just in this class,
right.
There's just not much hope. Like, give me Jaden Blue, give me Brashard Smith, give me Jaquez Hunter.
I think he's faster than quick. That's what I'm getting at with he just lacks like a first step or something, basically burstiness.
He's like running back 26 out of 30 for me. And again, that's just
I think he's 24 for me. So yeah, same boat.
There's quarterbacks, tight ends, and receivers to fill. That's the thing. It's just he's just
Yep.
You know, like
let's move on. Let's move on.
Let's get to the last guy because there's a little bit here with the last one.
Yeah, Montrell Johnson, Florida running back, 5'11" and 3/8, 212 pounds, 9 1/4 inch hands. He's 22. He'll be 23 in October. He ran a 4.41, had a 1.55 10-yard split, 123-inch broad jump, 35.5-inch vert. Last year at Florida, I don't know why I almost said Miami. Last year at Florida, he in 10 games he had 100 attempts, 593 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns. 13 receptions, 64 yards receiving, and 0 touchdowns. He was running behind the 7th best run blocking offensive line at Florida last year.
That's why I liked him.
So sometimes some people consider this a good thing, some people consider this a bad thing. But Florida running backs traditionally split with like 4 players. Like nobody on that team is getting over 160 attempts a season because they just share the workload. For NFL usage, that's a good thing. There's great. Plenty of tread on the tires. Yep. But for a guy like Montrell Johnson, he is what I would typically assume to be more of a rhythm back, and that gets stronger as the game goes on because of his play style. The play style that he has is, look, I think I can out physical you. And
savage.
He often did. Like, he runs with a true attitude. He runs downhill. He runs with solid vision, nothing special, but solid vision. He'll wait for the hole to develop. And then I'm not making a lot of cuts. He can make some moves. I saw a couple moves in there. I was like, oh, okay, I saw that there. But for the most part, it's downhill, and I'm either going to bounce off you or I'm going to make you hurt for tackling me. And that's his game. That's his style. So I don't know if it's going to necessarily translate super well to the NFL, but he does kind of fall into another one of those Damien Martinez, Ali, where it's like, man, I really like him for an NFL team, and I think he's actually a very good player. I just don't know if there'll be enough. He's not an elite enough between the tackle grinder to kind of be in a special tier of Jonathan Taylors and those kind of guys.
Yep, and I wrote a similar, I guess, conclusion, and it was he's the classic running back that does everything okay. You don't feel bad about anything he does, but there is nothing that really pops for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's hard for me to really get behind a guy like that. I like him. I think he's going to be on an NFL team. I think everything is,
he'll be on a depth chart for a while.
Yeah, he'll be on a depth chart. I'm not sure exactly if that's ever going to translate into him getting higher than running back 2 on a depth chart. Like, I don't think he's ever going to get a job where he's the starter. I think he's more of like a career backup type of guy, but I don't know. Cause there's mixed, like I saw in his vision, there was like a mixed bag. Like sometimes everything would click and you'd be like, wow, he read that thing really, really well. And there would be other plays where I feel like, man, the hole was over here. You're just battering you're batting your head in over here. Like, you missed that cutback, dude. Like, that was.
You guys have 0.7 seconds. If you guys don't figure this hole out by now, I will make one for you.
Right. Yeah, that is basically it. So maybe it's a patience thing that he doesn't have patience. And I kind of interpret that as a mixed bag of vision. Like,
I hear you. No, I hear you. I think it's fair.
That was kind of, I guess, the negative, but he does some good things, as far as running the ball and his suddenness, stop-start ability, I think, is good.
Yeah.
And he has long speed as well. So I think there's some things to like about the guy.
Yeah, to his detriment, no fluff, all purpose, right? Like, he gets out there. I was really impressed again with his feet for his side. Like, he has some really quick feet, I thought. Some really good early burst. I thought his contact balance is really good. Again, that speed that you said, he has the long speed as well to kind of get it done. Goal line kid, 33 touchdowns, always falling forward.
33 career touchdowns.
Yeah.
I wanted that to be.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Move over, Ashton Genty.
So, like you said, Garrett, like, as the game went on, there was no slowing down. Like, he just kept going and kept hammering the teams. And, like, And I kept watching him run. There are times where like you see a little burst in his quick feet and his little slash, and you're like, this is a nice running back. To the point where I was like, okay, I kind of like a more like where you said like he falls into the like he doesn't do anything great. He's just kind of good. I came away with Montrell Johnson like he's slightly better than average. Like
I would have really liked to have seen him on a different team that would give him 20 carries a game.
That would be nice.
And see like what would it be like if you really got to wear down the defense? What would your game look like in the fourth quarter? Because that's what his game kind of translates to is like, I'm going to wear you out the entire game. And then by the end of the game, there's just going to be nothing you're going to be able to do. And I remember like as a player, as a linebacker, some running backs like that. And you're just like,
he's still
I'm
here.
so tired of tackling you.
He's still here. He's still coming at me.
Dang, dude, chill.
Why is that dude smiling?
Yes.
I'm so beat up right now.
So when a guy like that only gets 100 carries, I'm like, I feel like you're doing his game a disservice. Like that's not how you should be using a player like this. But that's just how they do it at Florida. So I would have loved to have seen him at a different school to see what it would have looked like.
He started at UL Lafayette for his freshman year, where he had hundreds. They still used him similarly there too.
he was freshman of the year at Louisiana.
Yeah, the craziest thing was like he hit this combine. He ended up being like one of the most athletic running backs in the class. Like he posted a 9.7 RAS score, relative athletic score.
4.4 140.
Yeah, dude. I
forgot to mention he did run the 20 yard the 20 yard shuttle too. So he 4.29 in the 20 yard, which is
Matt,
good.
you said like he's solid in all areas. It's exactly what I said to Garrett on the phone because he called me. He was like, dude, did you watch Montrell Johnson yet? I was like, yeah, man. He's just a solid running back. I gave him like a 7 almost across the board, which is quote unquote good in our nerd score scale. So
see, I'd probably give him a 7.5.
Yeah, like, I mean, some categories he had 7.5.
I just feel like
he's just good.
There's just when I watch him run, again, and for his speed and his power and his feet and his contact balance, how solid it is. Like I feel in the right system with the right coaching, Montrell Johnson can kind of turn into that hashtag 2 to 3 year window running, kind of pop like a Kyron Williams kind of guy in the right system, right opportunity,
sure,
and be a again, maybe he's not a high-end running back, but if he was, it wouldn't be like surprise me. He does just enough in the passing game to make me say he's a can, not a can, not.
He caught 6 or 13 balls this past year, but the year before 30. So he can kind of do it, right?
Yep. Yeah, he got. You're right. 30 catches, 236 yards, average 7.9 yards per catch compared to this past year. So he's definitely a can where he only cost 13 football. So I came away a little bit more impressed probably on Montrell Johnson than you guys. I would probably put him at the top of that that fourth tier I was mentioned up there, like
with Damien and Monangai.
Like again, I would take him ahead of them.
Okay,
because again, I think he offers a little bit more. I think those guys are what they are. You know what I mean? Solid players that if they get hurt, then yeah, they're gonna get in there and produce. But like I know I need like an injury for them to be the guys. Montrell Johnson, I could see a path. Like it's a narrow path, but where like he can have some relevance for a short period of time here. He showed me enough, and with the athleticism they showed the combine, that like I wouldn't mind grabbing him on my rosters. He's gonna be like a favorite, like 4th round rookie pick for me. It depends where he gets drafted, maybe a little higher.
And he's another one that this draft is not doing him any help at all.
No.
Correct.
Because you think of another guy that played at Florida with a similar mentality. Their body types were a little bit different, but Damien Pierce, he was a guy that was relevant for a bit because he was a physically imposing back that would just dominate other people. Wasn't going to kill him with speed. This guy has more burst and speed than Pierce had. But yeah, we'll have to see. But it was just a great reminder of how freaking good this class is. When the last guy, this was literally the last guy I added to our sheet. Like, let's put Montrell Johnson in there. He was the last one, and he's still like,
and I'm glad he did.
And most of the time, I'm getting fatigued at watching crappy running backs.
Sure,
and I think towards the end of this, it's like I'm getting fatigued because there's so many good running backs. It's ridiculous.
That's what I called it. Told Jared, I'm tired of them being too good.
When Marcus Yarns was up, I was like, thank God, dude, this guy's just okay, man. Like I could finally just kind of knock a guy and take a breath here. And
so listen, there's a lot to digest here, right? We're over an hour and a half.
Are we really?
Our last
Holy crap.
On our last rookie episode, because there's so much to talk about. There's so much to like. And listen, unfortunately, unless you traded for a ton of picks, like when you're on the clock, you're going to have to make one of these decisions. Yep. So I encourage you, again, the rookie guide, the rookie app will have all this with our video breakdowns too. I think that's important. Like you're going to get a video aspect of us breaking these guys down and written articles from different views. It's why I encourage everybody to get in the film room too. Because like when you're on the clock, you're going to have to make a pick. And these guys are awfully close to the point of I've been doing this now. I've been playing Dynasty for 22 years. I've been doing this podcast for 11. This is by far the deepest running back class I have ever seen. And these guys are unbelievably close. Like unbelievably close. It's so like you're the top guys. Everybody agrees for the most part on the top guys. I think some people are going to throw Caleb Johnson there. I'm not willing to do that yet. Yep. But there's the top guys. Like I have Dylan Sampson there, and I totally understand why other people don't have him in there. Mm-hmm. When you're in the third round, the second round, like I said, Matt said, I'll wait for second and Allen. We're like, we won't, right? But when you're in the third and fourth round, there's going to be some decisions to be made.
Do you take Devin Neal? Do you take Trevor Etienne?
Yeah, and those decisions can be between you having A.J. Dillon or you ending up with Bucky Irvin.
Yep.
Or Kyron Williams, right? Like, and
go with pass catching upside.
Jamal Williams or Aaron Jones.
Yes. Yep. So it's like, and those decisions are the difference between you winning your Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship or you not just missing the playoffs or getting eliminated in the first round.
So don't mess it up.
So it is important. It's why we do this.
Screwed up jerks.
And I know this might sound a little chalky and a little like, okay, the NFL draft is going to tell us a lot about this class. A lot. So there's still a lot more work to do. And tomorrow we're going to jump into the receiver class.
That's where we figure out the opportunity, right? Is that NFL draft.
Overall, it's been an absolute pleasure watching tape on these guys and discussing it for you. There's a lot to write down for everybody in the notes to have. We'll be tweeting out. I think Garrett and I are going to do a video here ranking like our top 10 guys.
Might even have to do 15. There's so many.
I think we probably should do 15 to be honest with you. Matt's going to send us his results too, so we can kind of talk about his. If Jared wants to join us in that video, he's more than welcome as well.
Hey, thanks.
So we're going to put that video out there and kind of talk about these guys now as a group before the NFL draft because it's that deep and we feel like we have to do it. So we're going to do a video on YouTube. Please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Why?
Absolutely.
Because I don't know. It helps us.
It does.
It's the algorithms.
It's the algorithm. The more in comment on the videos too.
All the Twitters.
You people, hey, if you liked what I said, make sure you comment below. Like I'm not gonna go out there and say that. I'm 45.
We're just here to talk.
I'm 45. I'm not a kid. I'm a man.
But do that stuff. Right?
But scribe.
So
don't make me say it.
Come on, baby. I'll rub your back. I'll show you my tan toes. So that's it. We'll be back tomorrow. Breaking down finally the receivers. We're gonna get the receivers. There's no other as good as these guys.
That's a different. That's a different kind of video, Rich.
Let's get out of here.
So we'll be back tomorrow. Tune in, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and don't forget you get a free year. You jump in that fast draft.
Well, got to do it.
Do it fast.
Adios.